Hey guys, my name is Jordan and I'm on the client rep team at Marriage Helper. In my role, I typically help guide you to the very best resources that we have that can improve your marriage. Dr. Beam and Kimberly have asked me to read a couple questions that you all have submitted. This first person asks, my wife and I have been married almost 10 years. I have had multiple emotional cheating incidents throughout. The last one my wife found out about, and now she wants a divorce. But I don't. We do talk and we live in the same home, but I'm lost. What can I do to rebuild our love and relationship?
We actually had a podcast episode. At this point, it was several months ago, but it was an interview testimonial with a man who had come through our Solo Spouse Workshop. His name is Steven. So people can go back. We'll have it referenced in our show notes, but he had actually had 5 extramarital affairs. Mm-hmm. And it was a similar situation to this man. That's why I thought of it. Mm-hmm. And in the interview that he did with Gemma on our team to do the podcast interview, he talked about how he realized he had felt so much shame about what he had done. He didn't want his wife to find out. And he said he would just have nights where he would sleep in the bed next to her and just said, maybe if I just whisper it to her in her sleep, that it will alleviate me of my guilt and she'll find out that way. And then it'll be out in the open and we can deal with it. And he was just struggling with how to deal with this. Well, ultimately she did find out about the last one. And then either he told her, I can't remember the specifics. She found out about all of them, and things did not go well. No. However, he came to our Solo Spouse Workshop, and he really began to understand about himself, about maybe things in his life that had led to the temptation and availability of getting into those affairs. And so he talks about how beneficial and just life-changing the Solo Spouse Workshop was for him.
Because he began to understand why.
He began to understand why he had those affairs and what he could do to protect himself from it moving forward.
Would you say then that for this particular guy, that's crucial, that he has to understand why he's been having these emotional affairs?
Absolutely. Because otherwise they will probably continue happening. Because there has been multiple emotional cheating incidents throughout the last 10 years, that's not incredibly typical. That's more on the atypical side of behavior when it comes to cheating. And so it's important to understand why. What is it that's going on? Is there some kind of, you would know more about this part than I do, but is there some kind of a addictive personality style that's leading to engaging consistently in these affairs?
Yeah, it can be any number of reasons. There was a guy that when I did a live call-in radio program for a few years, there was a guy that called me every once in a while. And the reason that he did is because his dad taught him that you can't trust women. They're all bad. So just use them. And so he actually lived that lifestyle because his father taught him to do so. To this guy, what we're saying is this. We don't know why you've done this, right? But there's a reason. Mm-hmm. And it probably comes out of childhood, believe it or not. And if you can't find out what this thing is, then why should she trust you? Mm-hmm. Why should your wife trust you if you don't find the cause of what's causing these things and then find the way to heal it? Otherwise, she's like, well, you've done all these other things. Now you say you want to put the marriage back together. We're all going to be just fine. Well, heck, I thought we were just fine for 10 years. Yeah. And then discover you've been doing all these things. And so you will have to get the help to find out what's happening with you. Now, interestingly, Kimberly, in the Solo Spouse Workshop, we've often had people come to that realization. Mm-hmm. We don't do therapy there. We don't do counseling. It's an educational process, but it's an educational process designed to help people learn not only about relationships, but to learn a whole lot about themselves. Mm-hmm. And you can see it when the lights go off like, oh, that's why I do that. And it's really kind of interesting to me how that just that knowledge can be so powerful, like toward healing the thing. You would think, okay, then they'll know, but it's still going to be a long road to heal it. But somehow the knowing this is why that's happening can propel them forward in the healing.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's why they say knowledge is power. I mean, there really is, when you can start connecting the dots, I think there's part of it where you realize you're not crazy or you're not abnormal, that you are a normal person, so to say.
Even when you're doing terrible things.
Right. And that there's hope for a path forward. Mm-hmm. So it helps them understand the past, but also propels them of what they can do to move forward to prevent it from happening again.
Right. A couple of things I think that set us apart, Kimberly, is that, well, there are several, but one has to do with the fact that we take very complex psychological principles when we're teaching our workshops and seminars, mm-hmm. and make them easy to understand. Mm-hmm. And that's not because we think people are dumb. It's because usually the way these things are phrased are so complicated in the way they phrase them that it's hard to really comprehend what they're saying.
Right.
So we love taking these complex psychological principles, making them very simple, because when they're made simple, people can then start understanding the nuances better. Mm-hmm. And then another thing we do is we provide a path forward. Okay, based on that, here's what you can do. Now, to this gentleman, we would say, you can't put this back together by trying to force her to love you again. Mm-hmm. That won't happen. This guy's going to have a lot of patience. He needs to find out, and you probably will have to find this out before you ever get back together. In other words, he might be able to get her to come to the couples workshop with him, and if so, we would recommend that right off the bat. But the fact that he's done this over 10 years, she's probably, and we're guessing, to the point where it's like, I don't know if I want to do anything. And we would say, come to the Solo Spouse Workshop so you can learn about you. Now, when you do that, then you'll start finding, okay, not only this is why, but what's my path forward? But then you'll have to consistently and patiently live that. She's not going to trust you just like that. Not going to happen. And at some point, Kimberly, don't you think she's going to need to understand why it happened?
Yes, I do, to help with the same reasons, for her to understand the past, and also if there's an opportunity to see a path forward, that will help her see the path forward. To see her husband as someone who's not just an evil man, mm-hmm. but as someone who there was not a justified reason, but there was a reason that led to what happened here.
Good point. It doesn't justify it, mm-hmm. but you can help. Understanding why something happens goes a long way toward preventing it from happening again. Mm-hmm. And it's not looking for justification. It's just looking for comprehension. And so sometimes, Kimberly, we have people come to the solo workshop like we think that I probably should. And then later they actually come back through the couples workshop. Mm-hmm. And we offer great discounts for that if they do it that way. So that it's actually the deal of the century. And they can come back through there, and then she can understand.
Right.
So you would say that even if a guy's had 10 emotional affairs, I'm assuming one a year, even if he's had 10 emotional affairs, the marriage can be salvaged and made good again?
I believe it can. You have to do the work, but it can.
Yeah, it's not magic.
It's not magic.